Glass of water. Welcome to the live. The audio's on. So I was just thinking about overthinking because this is something that I have struggled with for a long time, or a lot of my life. No longer anymore, not so much anymore anyway. We still overthink when something really matters, right? If it's something small, I've done this about making decisions before, made a video. There are points in our life where we can just become paralyzed, where we loop over ideas and we have to overthink. And it's usually when it means something, when it's a really big change or it's a really big moment and it matters a lot to us. If we're really invested in an idea, we might overthink it. But overthinking's not a great thing to do. And we should always be trying to avoid it where we can, right? And this reminds me of two conversations, two people that have pointed this out to me. One is Roberto, my meditation coach, and another one was Scott, when I had him as my business coach. And Scott at the time said to me, I'm the sort of person that needs, all the documentation, I need to go through the whole, a full report. I need to go through all the evidence, every single bit of information, and then go over it all again before I can make a decision. Whereas at the time he said he just needed a 3-line summary and he could make a decision on that. Now, Roberto said to me that, he reminded me, Andy, you've already read everything you need to read. You've looked at all the evidence, you've read everything. I don't think you need to do any more reading, you just need to make decisions, right? And this is it. So I was just thinking, if you've read everything you need to read about a topic, right? I read all the time. So let's say you've read a lot. Why do you need to overthink? You just need to be able to recall that information. And sometimes this might be about, well, are you actually storing the information that you read, that you learn? In the interview that I did with John Frankel, I mentioned a point, and I can't remember what book it came out of, but I think it was The Impact Code, right? Where Nigel Risner pointed out that if you read something, you can learn up to 50%. If you read and then put it into practice, you can maybe get up to 75%. If you read, practice it in reality, and train someone else or teach someone else about it, you might get up to 90%. I thought those figures were slightly inflated. But the message is, if you just read something, you're just an armchair theologian. If you read something and put it into practice, like actually implement what you read in books, then you're going to retain a lot more of it. Now, if you read it, put it into practice in your own personal life and show someone else, you're going to learn even more. So I think that's real. And here's the thing, what I'm trying to say is, right, let's say you're struggling about a certain topic, whether it's, whatever you're trying to achieve, and you're struggling, overthinking it, can't start taking action. Have you researched enough? Have you read enough, right? If you have, then you should not be overthinking. You should be just taking action. And the way to do it, I did a video a few months ago, the 7 mental models that you should learn to be successful. Something like 7 mental models of success, right? And they were just mine. And the idea was that you train yourself to develop these mental models. And the idea of a mental model is it just gives you a quick snap decision. So if you're caught between two paths, you just take the one that fits your mental model. And if you absolutely nail these skills, then you should be able to make super quick decisions, right? There shouldn't be any overthinking involved. And I think 3 of these mental models were all about communicating and negotiating, right? Very quick to implement, because it's just a mental model is just a set of rules that you just follow. And the others were like, well, maybe it's like marketing and sales, or, like, what was the other one? Like business skills, things like this. Whatever mental models you need. Once you develop them, there shouldn't be any thinking about it. So this is how I've managed to improve. I used to overthink terribly and no longer do. And the way, so a good example of that now is, if I come to write a piece of work, let's say an article for a website, let's say a piece of marketing, like an article or a post, right, on a topic, I will literally I will write that post, and I have a set of, I don't know, yeah, let's call it a mental model. I have a set of checkpoints that I go through, and I've learned this, I've read about it, I've spoke to Simone, I've figured it out. Yeah, she's better than me at it, right? But the thing is, I can turn something out really quick, because once I've thought about the idea, I've wrote it out, I know exactly what to do. I've got this process that I follow. And as long as I follow all the steps in that, I don't need to think about it. It's just done, right? And that is a really good example. I don't get to the end of it and go, right, am I going to promote this now? Am I going to share it on fucking Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever? I don't have to worry about that, because I've got it nailed. And that is why you need those mental models. So what's the process? Well, you read about it, you learn about it. So in terms of marketing, I read some books, like sales books. They're on my reading list. I then learn by reading. I speak to Simone, who's an expert in that digital marketing space. And I pull together like a set of steps, like a process. And then I start, you know what I mean? First one I did, write the article, research, read, speak to Simone, develop this process, and then you just fucking start, right? You just do it. Then the next time it gets a little bit better. In the end, you end up with this model, this mental model, this framework, and every time you just do the same thing now. So once I get to the point where I've chosen an article to write about, right, and I write about that article, and I've got the article, right, I might do all the spell check, and I've got a set of rules that I follow. So it will be, what's the key phrase, which is like the keyword, right? Keyword, or the key phrase might be 4 or 5 words instead of a keyword. It's a key phrase. Does it appear in the title? Is the title SEO? Does it appear in the first paragraph? Maybe, depending on the length of the post, it has to appear at least 4 times. In the title, which is a H1, the main H1 heading, maybe once in the H2 heading. There has to be so many words. You write a meta description, all these things. Try not to go below a H3 heading. Basic stuff like that, right? That's it. Then it's done. So that's just an idea. So I no longer have to think about that now. But previous, I was like really overthinking, how do I start writing this piece of work and stuff like this. Another area was like where you might overthink is, like, a lot of people struggle overthinking in relationships, right? Dating relationships, whether that's like the worst overthinking is the end of a long-term relationship. That sends your head all over the fucking place. You overthink it, and that's just because there's a lot of time invested. You've got this kind of, some people call it sunk cost fallacy. You've invested so much time in that person that when it ends, you overthink it. But that overthinking does you no good whatsoever. You're far better develop a framework to deal with a breakup, right? And you might see that as a mental model. And what would that look like? Well, a set of boundaries that you don't allow, that you stand by. So somebody don't want to be with you, right? Okay, that's it. You just, you accept the decision and you just don't contact them. That is just a mental model. If you don't want to be with that person, I think it's always better to tell them, and then, you go your separate ways, and that's it. You don't contact them. That's a mental model, right? But instead we overthink it. I do get it, because you know, emotions get in the way of such matters. And it's, you know, things like breakups are terrible for overthinking. But it does you no good. And I always find that, like, after the event, let's say, you know, a few months later, 6 months, 12 months later, after that overthinking period, you always look back at all the time that you wasted, don't you? Always reminds me of something that when I first started to journal, the one thing that I noticed, I've been journaling for years now. Obviously, I sell my own journal now. Links down below in the description. But when I first started to journal, one of the patterns I found, because I read them back every 6 to 12 months, you know, just to see the growth. This is a great thing about writing it down in the moment. You can see the growth. The big learning that I found was we usually make the right decision, or we make the decision based on the best available that we have, knowledge that we have right now, today. So you always do the best that we can, usually. Unless we're just being fucking idiots and just making crazy decisions. But we tend to make the decision far later than we should have done. We almost make that decision sooner, months. Oh, is it running out of battery? Don't matter. Months, sometimes years sooner. So, like I say, when I first started journaling, that's what I noticed. I noticed that every time I made a decision, I usually made the right decision, but I always could have made it a few months earlier. And that is down to overthinking, right? So your job should be tightening up that decisions, make quick decisions, because then you get speed, right? And the lower the stakes, you know, if it's not, unless it's a massive life-changing thing, you don't really need to overthink it. Just make the decision. Then you get speed, because most things are reversible anyway. And even if they're not, as long as you've got, like I say, a set of mental models that you developed and you can just help you to make quick decisions, that's what you should do. So go and watch the video that I did on make it help. There's two that you should watch. I've already created the description in here, but afterwards, if you watch it back again, I'll change the description. There's two videos you should watch. One is called How to Make Decisions. If you just look at my channel, How to Make Decisions. The other one is the 7 Mental Models for Success. Those two, if you do them, will help you to make quick decisions. It's all about having those mental models or frameworks. So the video I did on making decisions is making decision frameworks, which is, let me think of the good ones. You've got, if you're caught, let's say you got two choices, fork in the road moment. You can go that way or that way. You should always take the decision that has the most pain in the short term, right? Because if you take the other route, the easy route, the one that doesn't have initial pain, that's usually comfort zone stuff. That's, you know, your brain's trying to take the easy way out. That will end up pain in the long run because you're not making any change. The right path is always to take the path with the most pain in the short term, because that is usually means change, and that usually means growth. That's one of the best mental models. The other one is Tim Ferriss's Whole Body Yes. I think he looks at the head, the heart, the chest, the heart, the gut, and he looks for no signals in any of them. If he gets a no signal in any of them, it is a no. Right? That's just like big decisions. Little decisions, just look for an easy out. Anyway, go and have a look at those two videos. Thanks for listening. Have a nice evening. All right. See you all next time.